Advocacy Director with Gender Justice. We are here today to demand equality and to declare that equality has no qualifiers, no exceptions, no carve-outs. Equal means equal, and all means all. Today we are launching our new expanded coalition called Minnesotans for Equal Rights. And we intend to pass an Equal Rights Amendment ballot initiative to allow voters in Minnesota to decide to include Minnesotan values in our Constitution. Let the people vote. To date, over 29 states have equal rights amendments in their state constitution. Minnesota is not one of them. We mean to change that. It has been 102 years since the now fully ratified federal ERA was first introduced into Congress, and 42 years since the Minnesota state ERA was first introduced. And as we have witnessed our rights being systematically stripped away in other states, to secure future protections against discrimination based on race, color, national origin, ancestry, disability, or sex, including pregnancy, pregnancy outcomes, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. We need to pass the ERA now. And we came within a hair's breadth of passing the ERA this last session, and some would now have us slink away and forget the fight. But will we? No. Absolutely not. Equality is our inalienable right, and we will persist. We will persist until the ERA is in the Constitution.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, everyone. It's so beautiful to see all your beautiful faces today. I know it's cold, but it just shows the commitment that Minnesotans have to fight for the ERA. My name is Iman Hassan, and I'm the Advocacy Director of Gender Justice. This Equal Rights Amendment is more than a legal protection. It's a declaration of dignity and respect for all Minnesotans. It will ensure that our shared future is one where equality is guaranteed. No Minnesotan should be denied rights because of who they are or the community they belong to. And no Minnesotan should be denied the right to vote on the Equal Right Amendment. Woo! I stand here as a Black Muslim immigrant woman, and I know that we need a diverse coalition to make this happen. That's why I want to celebrate all of the new coalition members, volunteers, and partners that are fighting for the Equal Rights Amendment, including the Asian American Organized Project, ERA Minnesota, Gender Justice, Jewish Community Action, Minnesota Council on Disability, Minnesota AFL-CIO, Minnesota Now, National Council of Jewish Women Minnesota, Out Front Minnesota, Take Action Minnesota, The Arc Minnesota, the Paper Lantern Project, Voices for Racial Justice, Women's Foundation of Minnesota, WYCA Minneapolis, Unrestrict Minnesota, Minnesota Move to Amend, League of Women Voters of Minnesota. Yes, that's right. African American Leadership Forum, American Association of University Women Minneapolis. And IATA Leads, as well as our additional rally co-sponsor, Compassion and Choices, Fair Vote Minnesota, Island of Discarded Women, Reviving Sisterhood, and the Women's March of Minnesota. Thank you all for fighting for ERA. Okay, it's time to kick this off and welcome our first speaker, our amazing Minnesota State Auditor, Julie Blaha.
There we go. Good morning, Minnesotans. Are you ready for some equality? What a great way to start the day. You might be surprised that when you work in an office of accountants, that's not always how the greeting goes. And you may be wondering, why is the auditor here? You know, I oversee about $60 billion in government activity, and most of it is at the local level. And in those numbers, I can see that the more opportunity available in a community, the better the entire community does. So it's important not only that we get the ERA in the Constitution, but we need to make sure it's in our schools. We make sure it's in our local hospitals. We need to make sure it's on your street every single day. Who's going to support this at every level? Now, I kind of want to channel Senator Aaron Murphy. By the way, let's just cheer for her. As you know, her theme is always joy. And the joy, and I know when you walked in the door today, you know, and the press certainly knows this, lots of joy. Well, okay, I mean, come on, someone's brought our popcorn today, I mean, we know. But when it comes right down to it, where do you find the joy in a day with some tension, with a fight that has been long and hard? Well, you find the joy in our opponents' actions. Our opponents' actions tell us everything we need to know about where we are in this movement. You know, they wouldn't fight this hard if the ERA wasn't so effective and so powerful. Let's hear it for something that works. They wouldn't fight this hard if we weren't so close. Let's hear it for getting it done this year. And they wouldn't fight this hard if y'all weren't so good. Give it up for yourselves. Here's the thing. ERA is powerful. You are powerful. Let's go.
Good morning. Oh, if it was my church, I'd have to say it again. Good morning. What do we want? ERA. When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
ERA.
When do we want it?
Now.
Oh, you sound good this morning, and I'm glad to have you here today. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm going to paraphrase that social justice bard, Nina Simone. You don't have to live next to me, and you don't have to marry me. You don't have to have a baby with me. Just give me my equality. In a few days, we will inaugurate a new administration that has articulated its desire to lead by subtraction. They have no intention of recognizing the inherent worth and dignity or the human rights of a select few people, and they have determined that they're going to work to take those rights away. Also in a few days, the whole nation will pause and remember and recognize the life and work of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who espoused the gospel of freedom. And let me make that clear to you what he was espousing. Everybody is somebody. Oh, you didn't listen. Everybody is somebody. Everybody is entitled for their rights and their dignity to be recognized and honored in this country. Everybody is somebody. And so we stand here today to affirm the Minnesota ERA is an affirmation that everybody is somebody. The ERA is an affirmation that we will not stand by and let anybody be subtracted from the human family. We're going to stand up for everybody's right to live with life and dignity. And so you don't need to know it from me. You know, that's why you're here, that freedom, fairness, and equality is our birthright. And we will not stand silently by to have it taken away, and we will make everyone recognize it here and now. So we're going to enshrine that protection in our constitutional documents, to say that nobody will be left behind, to say that rights will not be taken away because of political whim or political pique, that we won't allow you to misrepresent or take away anything that we are entitled to by bent of our humanity. And so I'm standing with you, and I hope we don't shut up about it. That's the first thing they ask you to do, is to shut up. That's the first thing they ask you to do, is to be quiet about it. But I don't want, when you leave here, you keep your mouth flapping until they say we are tired of it. But we want the ERA today, and we're going to fight for it anyway. You join us in that fight. Don't give up. Don't go home. Don't sit down. Don't shut up. Let them know. Don't shut up. Because we need these lasting protections. One more word and I'll let you go. After the 2016 election, my inbox was filled with young, gay, and trans youth worried about what was coming. After this last election, it wasn't just youth. It was all the people that I minister to, LGBTQ people, trans people, in my inbox, worried about the future. And the first thing that I said is that you will not be left behind. It's not just me, but everybody in this room will be there to fight for your right. What do we want? The ERA. When do we want it? Now!
Thank you, Reverend Dwayne Davis. Let's have another round of applause for him. Good morning, Minnesota. My name is Gloria Bettis, and I'm the President and CEO of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Our mission is to end systemic inequities and drive innovation for gender and racial justice. We want to see a world of opportunity where all women, girls, and gender-expansive people can thrive and have the power to lead safe and prosperous lives with their families. As a Latina growing up in Texas, I saw how difficult it was, both emotionally and economically, for my mother and family after my father passed away. At a young age, I learned what it meant to be a leader and to step up when you are needed, whether that is to be a source of strength in your immediate family or to become a leader in a large family that is our community. Now, as a leader of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, I see that gender and racial inequality persists, and we want to make sure that girls can grow up equally in this state. For example, we know from our Status of Women and Girls report that the gender wage gap here in Minnesota hasn't narrowed over the past decade. On average, women make 81 cents for every dollar a man makes. And for women of color, it's even lower. If you add that up over a lifetime, a woman in Minnesota loses almost $500,000 across the course of her career. And a woman of color loses more than $1 million. I know what I could do with $1 million. We must do better for the young people in our state, many of whom are just starting their careers. So let's make sure they don't face the same kind of discrimination and resulting economic hardships that we experienced when we were growing up. Today, on this first day of the Minnesota legislative session, I'm asking each of you to step up as a leader in your community, your family, encouraging your representatives and the people you know to pass Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment so it becomes enshrined in our state constitution. This past November, our friends in New York voted yes to an Equal Rights Amendment in their state. It expands their civil rights and protections against discrimination. Now, Minnesota has an opportunity to step up as a leader and join this movement that will hopefully sweep across the country. Powering part of the Equal Rights Amendment movement here in Minnesota is a group leader of the Young Women's Initiative that the Women's Foundation convenes in partnership with the Governor's Office. Since 2016, we've engaged almost 300 young women and gender-expansive people through this initiative. We've listened to what they envision for their future, and we've provided them with the tools they need to advocate for that vision. Here today to represent the Young Women's Initiative is Janet Jimenez, our foundation's Dr. Retha Clark King Fellow, and the manager of the Young Women's Initiative.
I'm very excited to be here today to share with you all how much your support for the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment means to the members of the Young Women's Initiative. As we like to call it, the YWI. And as Gloria said, the Equal Rights Amendment is very crucial for our young people like me and the YWI members, who are just starting to make their way into the world as adults. This is a reason for our YWI members have prioritized this in their own policy agenda this year. This past September, we convened our newest cohort of YWI members at a Power Up Summit. They were very excited to gather in solidarity as young women and gender-expansive people. And they all left the summit feeling very, very hopeful that evening about the future. At the summit, one cabinet member had this to say: policy changes are not only in our legislation, but they start within ourselves. This is a very powerful place. We're all working towards the betterment of the same thing, just existing as the powerful people that we are, and hopefully putting that energy into other people is a little part that we can take with us. These are the wise words that I encourage you to reflect upon in the upcoming months. On behalf of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota and the hundreds of YWI members, we ask you to exist in your power and to put that energy into other people in our community by doing two things. One, I encourage you to encourage your representatives and everyone you know to support the passing of the Equal Rights Amendment this year. I welcome you to return back to the Rotunda on February 17th to support the Young Women's Initiative members during their day at the Capitol. And please register for the event on our website, and you can find us at wfmn.org. Now, let's commit to taking these two actions to help ensure that young people of all types of intersecting identities can feel both affirmed and hopeful about their future. Thank you.
And now we'd like to welcome to the stage Senate President Bobby Joe Champion.
Well, first of all, let me say good morning. Secondly, let me say it is always so good to see smiling faces, first of all. That tells me that you are excited about being here and excited about the possibility of us passing ERA. Just so that you know, my name is Senator Bobby Joe Champion. I'm president, and it's great to see you all here today in the Capitol Rotunda as we begin our new legislative session. And most importantly, it's great to see so many Minnesotans pushing for the passage of the ERA. With each new session, we as legislators have new opportunities to improve the lives of Minnesotans and to ensure that every one of us has the opportunity to live their lives with the freedoms and protections that our laws and Constitution affords us. For the past 2 years in Minnesota, we've done the work and enacted policies that would benefit our families and communities for generations. We also insisted on showing the nation that we are a welcoming state for people who don't feel welcome in other places. But we still have work to do to ensure that everyone has protections under the law. That's another reason why ERA should be passed. I don't have to tell you, but in less than a week, we will see a new administration installed in Washington, D.C. And we have all heard and seen the explicit threats coming from the leaders and supporters of that administration against our rights, our communities, and against our families. Here in Minnesota, we have the chance to explicitly, and I repeat, explicitly help shield our state from these threats by enacting the Minnesota ERA, and we need all of you to support us as we do so. I understand too closely how important it is for all of us to have rights, and for all those rights to be protected. And I want you to know that I'm committed to making sure that a person should not be judged by way of their gender to decide if they are entitled to equal pay. We know that we also be judged on our skills and qualifications and give us the opportunity to make livable and family-sustaining wages. And I know that I stand on the shoulders of many great women, including my mother, who fought hard for equal rights under the law. So I want to thank you for being here, and more importantly, for being involved in the future of Minnesota. I heard that there's going to be a young women's gathering. I want you to know how important all of this is. So we do not just see numbers on a sheet of paper, but we see faces, and we see lives. But more importantly, you are wearing the color green today because you see hope and optimism, because that's what the color green represents. So I want to thank you, and we have to get to work to enact the ERA for all Minnesotans. And are you going to join me in helping us? I would be remiss if I didn't pause and at least thank Senator Kunis for her great work on this. Can you give her a hand as we are thinking about Senator Kunis? And as a reminder, I heard that Pastor Davis just mentioned that everybody is somebody. Come on, somebody. Everybody is somebody. We won't leave anyone behind. We are standing together for the right and standing together as we fight for ERA. Thank you so very much, and let's continue to fight, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Senator Champion. I really appreciate that. Give them a round of applause. We really appreciate having the President of the Senate here stand committed to passing the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment. So it's great to have that presence here. My name is Trevor Turner. I'm the Public Policy Director for the Minnesota Council on Disability. The Minnesota Council on Disability is an independent, nonpartisan state agency that advocates for all Minnesotans with disabilities. And before I get started, I also wanted to acknowledge the amazing work of our ASL and certified deaf interpreters. Making this event as inclusive and accessible as possible. And I should also notice that you probably can tell I'm a deafblind Minnesotan, so this is really personal for me. So we're here to advocate for a Minnesota where equality is guaranteed for all, and that means ensuring that disability rights are explicitly included in the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment. Disability is unique. It transcends race, gender, age, sexuality, religion, and socioeconomic status. It is the only marginalized identity that anyone can become a part of at any time, both permanently and temporarily. And if you're lucky to live long enough, chances are you will acquire a disability yourself. So the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment is not just about protecting others, this is about ensuring that your own rights are safeguarded now and into the future. Today, too many Minnesota with disabilities face arbitrary barriers that prevent them from fully participating in society, whether in education, employment, healthcare, or public life. By including disability in the Minnesota ERA, we are saying loudly and clearly that discrimination against people with disabilities has no place in our state. We are ensuring that every one of us, whether now or in the future, has the legal protection and dignity we deserve. This isn't just a legal or symbolic change. It's a statement about our values. It is a recognition that true equality means equality for everyone. Including disability rights in the ERA means committing to a Minnesota that guarantees access, opportunity, and justice for all, now and for generations to come. So let's seize this moment and lead by example. Let's show that the nation, that Minnesota values every individual because of, and not just despite, disabilities. We support the inclusion of disability rights in the Minnesota Human Rights Act, or the ERA, because we want to take an essential step towards ensuring a fair, inclusive future for every single one of us. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage one of our chief authors, Senator Mary Connect.
With all of you again today. I feel like this is sort of a groundhog situation where every year I'm back and I'm saying, this is the year. And for whatever reasons, we don't get it quite over the finish line. But I just want you to know that we are totally committed in the Senate and in the House to ensuring that we have an ERA in our Constitution. And I really do truly believe that the most important thing that the Minnesota legislature can do is to take the voters and give the voters an opportunity to provide certainty and stability to Minnesota's legal system by setting a very clear legal standard that everyone, regardless of their gender, where they live, what they do, no matter what, is protected equally in the Minnesota Constitution through an Equal Rights Amendment. Minnesotans absolutely deserve nothing less than constitutional equality and government that upholds our basic values of fairness. Gender scrutiny must receive, it absolutely must receive the highest level of scrutiny, and assumed equality is never, ever enough. So our state, thank you, so our state must and will work for all of us, no matter what we look like or who we are. So while most people think that they have protections under the 14th Amendment, according to our courts, it does not actually cover discrimination based on the basis of sex. And therefore, we will continue to work to move this legislature to protections under that 14th Amendment according to courts. So it's important that we put that ballot question on the next ballot. And it will say, when we are done, shall the Minnesota Constitution be amended by adding a specific guarantee that equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by this state or any of its cities or counties or other political subdivisions on account of race, color, creed, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, age, disability, ancestry, or national origin. I think we got it covered, and thank you to all of those that worked so hard to ensure that that statement is just right. So what do you all say? Do you say yes to ERA? Yes! All right. So it is paramount that we enshrine legal protection
protections through that constitutional amendment, and this ERA will provide that clear constitutional guarantee against gender discrimination and making it easier to challenge discriminatory laws, thus formalizing a commitment to gender equality that reflects our modern society values. So I'm going to get back up to our caucus, and hopefully we'll finish in time for other senators to come down and meet with all of you. But we know that this ERA legislation is more than just a piece of legislation. It represents a significant movement in our society aimed at ensuring that all individuals, regardless of their sex, enjoy equal rights and protections under the law. And so, Minnesotans, I am here to say I am with you. I will work hard this session to ensure that we are talking about this, that we are moving this closer to completion. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming back time and time again. And the generations that have worked so hard to get this going, and we will continue until we make it happen. So,
Hello everyone, I'm so excited to now introduce our incredible and dedicated Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan.
Well, hello. I'm going to use this box because I'm small but mighty. We got to use all the tools in our toolbox, right, to ensure that our voices are heard. So, bonjour, Peggy Flanagan, edition of cause, gives you wave it up and way and to go, Guabagag and Cogrin Jun Shabbat, Bang into name. My English name is Peggy Flanagan. My Ojibwe name is Speaks in a Loud and Clear Voice Woman. I'm a member of the wider nation, and my family is the Wolf Clan, and the role of our clan is to ensure that we're never leaving anyone behind, which is why we are in the rotunda today. I am your Lieutenant Governor, but as I stand here, I am Pat Flanagan's daughter, and I am Siobhan's mom. And we are in a moment where sometimes it is hard to talk to my daughter about the current position that we find ourselves in. And I at times struggle to find the right words. But here's what I know. I know that when the Dobbs decision came down, the first thing that I did was call my mom. And with tears in my eyes, I was talking to my mom, and she said, in the way that she did, which is a little bit of caring and nurturing, and with a dash of get your stuff together. And she said, Peggy, I have been preparing you your whole life for this moment. And so I want to be very clear that we lost my mom shortly after the 2022 election. But I know that she has absolutely prepared me for this moment. And that the women who have loved you into existence have prepared you for this moment as well. And it's okay. It's okay if you feel scared. It's okay. And it's okay if you cannot find the right words for the young people around you, or for the friends that you have been shoulder to shoulder in this fight for years and years. It is okay. But I want to tell you what is not okay. Giving up. Because as an Anishinaabe, I know that our people, our communities have been through so much, and yet we have come out on the other side and we are resilient. And then I also know in my bones that we will continue to do this work together and we will win. And I have said this before, but it bears repeating. As a survivor of domestic violence and as a child witness, sometimes I made myself small in order to survive. Making ourselves small in this moment does not serve anyone. And there are people who will try to make you small, who will try to make you play small, and we are not going to do that. We will not simply slink off into the dark of the night. Because the women in our lives, because our trans relatives in our lives who we love, because of the people who need access to reproductive health care, and for simply being told that we are human beings worthy of dignity and decency and common respect and safety, we will not back down or make ourselves small in this moment. And so, my friends, I know that you have a little bit of fight left in you. Because we have been prepared for this moment. The leaders, the women, the individuals, since time immemorial, who have been fighting for a better and more just and more whole world for all of us, they are with us in this moment. We are not going through any of this alone. So as your Lieutenant Governor, but more so, as Pat Flanagan's daughter and as Siobhan's mom, thank you, thank you, thank you for being in your house, for fighting for what you believe in, and for not slinking off quietly into the night, but for taking up space, for making yourself as big as possible for the work that we have to do together. And so, we are worthy of dignity, we are worthy of equal rights, we are worthy of our own body sovereignty and making our decisions for ourselves. Are y'all ready to fight with me?
Good morning, Minnesota! I'm Bernie Burnham, and I'm the president of the Minnesota AFL-CIO. An elementary teacher by trade, and I stand before you as the leader of our state's federation of more than 1,000 local unions, and their more than 300,000 members who come from every walk of life and work in every corner of Minnesota. While we are a diverse labor movement, we share the same core values. We believe that everyone, no matter what they look like, where they live, where they were born, who they love, and no matter their gender identity, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Right. By and large, most Minnesotans share these same values. But we can't rely on will alone to secure that dignity and respect. In our labor movement, we live by this saying that a boss's promises are temporary, but a union contract is in writing. We say this because we know that circumstances change. You might have a good boss one day who does right by the workers, but unless it's in writing, the next boss can always take away the gains we make as workers. That's why we have union contracts. And it's why we need a statewide union contract of our own to protect our rights. And that contract is the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment. We need it because we have already seen what happens in other states when our rights aren't enshrined in either state or federal constitutions. After this past fall, we know that a single election can turn everything upside down and put our rights at risk. And on behalf of Minnesota's labor movement, I'm here to tell you that union members are committed to making sure gender equality is enshrined in our state's constitution. Simply put, the ERA will be our union contract for equality, and we are going to stand in solidarity to fight for that contract. Because when we fight, we win! When we fight, we win! When we fight, we win! Let's go, Minnesota!
What do we want? When do we want it? Now! Hi everyone, my name is Deekshi and I'm here with fellow high school students to talk about why we support the Equal Rights Amendment. We're also here to represent the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan organization founded for women gain the right to vote. More than 100 years after the ERA was proposed by suffragists Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman, people in the United States are still not constitutionally guaranteed equality on the basis of sex. Enshrining equality in the Constitution represents the past struggles and the future of our democracy. Now, more than ever, we need to hold firm on our values here in Minnesota, the state we call home. By passing the ERA, I'm looking forward to a future of where I am free to choose what to do with my body, my life, and my future as well as the future of others.
Good morning, everyone. What do we want? ERA! When do we want it? Now! My name is Max Wynn, and I'm a student from Egan High School. I'm truly honored to be invited to speak before you today. This weekend, I attended the Youth in Government Conference with my friend Kyle Chen, along with many other incredibly involved and passionate youth advocates around the state. We have seen firsthand the power and change that we can all create simply by making our voices heard together. One voice and one effort may be small, but with all of us together, we will make a difference. Together, we must continue to build a more inclusive democracy and value human rights. The Minnesota ERA would guarantee equal rights for everyone, ensuring that no community, including us students, are left behind. I am inspired and hopeful to be a part of this movement. We're recognizing both historical and current injustices. We can enshrine values of fairness, equality, and justice in our state's constitution. We stand together with everyone before us and the leaders alongside us today to finally pass today's inclusive and intersectional ERA.
My name is Kyle Chen, and on behalf of young people across Minnesota, we agree with all the sentiments shared by previous speakers. We agree that this amendment is simply about championing a more representative, inclusive, and most importantly, fair and honest democracy. But the medians have all been said. What's most important to me and my fellow students is the future. Because when we shrine the ERA, we fundamentally alter the law of the land at its core. That ensures a lasting permanency in our actions so that we can know that future Minnesotans get the rights that they deserve. Because as our esteemed attorney governor said, they are simply entitled to them. Additionally, we saw a clear example for other American states to follow in our footsteps and do the exact same. So that our future, the future of the young, can be looked upon with opportunity and appreciation. We are looking forward to advocating for the ERA in 2026 and encourage all of you to do the exact same. By simply showing up, writing letters, testifying in committee meetings, or as Reverend Dwayne Davis said, simply refusing to shut up. We will create a better future for our young, for the marginalized, and for citizens across Minnesota. We thank the League and all of you here today for the opportunity and the esteemed chance to speak here today. Thank you.
Executive Director of Outfront Minnesota, our state's largest LGBTQ advocacy organization. And here, as we all fill the People's House, is there any better rallying cry than equality? Right now, at a federal level in Congress, they are debating and discussing HR 28, which would ban trans women and girls from sports. And I share that, yeah, boo. But I share that in addition to say that there is a false narrative being shared. And it's one that we've seen both in Washington and here in Minnesota as the ERA was debated last year. That somehow granting equality to more of us takes away equality from some of us. I don't believe that equality is a finite resource. I believe that fundamentally Minnesotans are people who believe in welcome and inclusion, who believe in fairness and caring for our friends and neighbors, who believe in equal opportunity and the promise of our state's joy and constitution and life for all of us. And I have seen that in the generational fight for LGBTQ rights here in this state. From fights to make this state a trans refuge in 2023. From the fight for marriage equality, same-sex marriage equality, which we won here in the state in 2013. Or to go back to 1993, when our state was the first to have fully LGBTQ inclusive protections in our Minnesota Human Rights Act. We have seen how each of these wins has made our state a stronger place, a better place, a more equal place for all of us. And it is long past time that we enshrine those protections into our state's constitution. Equality is not a set of trade-offs between who has it and who doesn't. It is a promise that we make to all of us, that we make to those sitting beside us, that we make to those outside of this building, that we make to the future generations of Minnesotans who will call this place home. We should all have the freedom to make the choices about our bodies, our lives, and our futures. Those fundamental freedoms that cut across all of the identities and lived experiences of folks in this room and outside of it are what we are fighting for today. This is a generational effort, and I have been part of generational work in the LGBTQ movement to fight for equality in this state and beyond, and I know it can be hard to wait for equality, to wait for these wins to finally be codified, but I also know we will win. Because equality is something we fundamentally believe in as Minnesotans, because it is something that we have shown up for year after year after year, and we will get it done. This is a promise to our state, to those who are to come, and to all of us, that Minnesota will be a North Star for equal protections and equal rights for all. And I look forward to being in this fight with you. Thank you.
Good morning. So happy to be with you all. My name is Megan Peterson. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Executive Director for Gender Justice. So we all know at this moment we're facing very real threats to our rights, freedoms, and futures. But passing the Minnesota ERA is not just a moral imperative. It is urgent and necessary to protect the fundamental rights of every Minnesotan. With Trump's imminent return to the White House and his administration's dangerous priorities boldly laid out in Project 2025, including plans to dismantle abortion and civil rights protections and undermine equality, we know that the rights and freedoms we fought for year after year after year are more vulnerable than ever. In fact, these threats are very real and have already been moving through legislatures and courts across the country in recent years. But we will not stand for this in Minnesota. We have not been standing for this in Minnesota, and that's why we're all here today. As I'm sure like many of you, as a mom, it's very easy to lay awake at night feeling worried about the future my son is going to inherit. But here in Minnesota, I know we have both the power and the responsibility to lead and to protect the most vulnerable among us. We're not powerless, and when we come together, when we organize for a more just and inclusive future, and when we commit to protecting our fundamental human rights, we are unstoppable. At Gender Justice, we work every day to ensure that reproductive freedom, trans rights, LGBT inclusion, and every single person's bodily autonomy is protected, and we win a lot. And that's why we know that an inclusive ERA that includes all of us and leaves no one behind is an extremely powerful legal tool, and one we cannot wait to get our lawyers into court using every day. So whether it's defending reproductive rights, ensuring transgender people can live and work without fear of discrimination, or protecting immigrant communities from cruel policies, the ERA provides a powerful shield, and that's why this ERA matters. Gender Justice is very proud to be part of this growing and diverse coalition, Minnesotans for Equal Rights, and we know that we must stand together in solidarity, especially in these challenging times. We are united in knowing that true justice is intersectional. Rights aren't pie, right? There's enough pie and enough rights for everyone. So we're gonna pass this new ERA for a new era. And we're building a movement that embodies the vision of the world as it is today. Interconnected, diverse, and resilient. I believe in the power of Minnesotans. We've proven time and time again that when we are given the opportunity to make our voices heard, we choose equality, fairness, and justice for all. And when the ERA is on the ballot, because it will be on our ballot, we will vote yes for these values once again. But I just want to take a moment to say this isn't just about Minnesota. Minnesota putting the ERA in the ballot actually helps us join a growing national movement. In the last election, New York passed an inclusive ERA by wide margins. 62.5% of New Yorkers voted for their ERA. And right now, Oregon is working to put their own equality amendment on their ballot. So states across the country are stepping up to enshrine their protections in their constitutions and to create resistance to what is happening federally and nationally in our country. So this is our chance to show our nation what it means to stand up for equality and justice for all, and to live up to Minnesota's legacy as a leader in human rights. Which, speaking of, I don't know if everybody knows, but in Minnesota, we were the first state in the nation to pass a trans-inclusive Human Rights Act. That's a legacy worth celebrating and worth building on. So that's why the legislature has to prioritize and pass the ERA and place it on the ballot for the people to decide. This is not about politics, this is about democracy, direct democracy. It's about trusting the people of Minnesota to make their voices heard on an issue that affects us all. And when it comes time to vote on the ERA, we know that the people will choose a future that is just, inclusive, and free from discrimination. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shelley Cartham-Watson, and I have the honor of serving as the president and CEO of YWCA Minneapolis. So I was talking to some folks about this rally, and I happened to mention that I was going to be speaking this morning. And they said, well, why on earth would the YWCA be involved in that? And I see enough old faces, familiar faces in this audience to know you understand why I found that so amusing. We are the YWCA of Minneapolis. And since 1891, we have dedicated ourselves to the mission of eliminating racism, empowering women, and ensuring the peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. And it is our mission that drives us to stand with all of you, all of our partners today, in support of the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment. In fact, supporting the Equal Rights Amendment, as I so politely inform my friend, is actually a continuation of the work that we have always done for over 130 years. We have been generating change in the areas of racial justice, reproductive and civil rights, and the empowerment and economic advancement of women and girls. Some of you may remember, if you were lucky, you may have remembered or had the opportunity like I did to hear my mother and grandmother talk about how the YWCA integrated our programs in the 1920s. How we came out in favor of reproductive rights. How the YWCA in Minneapolis was the first integrated pool in the Twin Cities. And we recruited women of color for positions on our board of directors and as board chairs. Some of you may remember that we came out against lynching, that we provided protection and support for freedom riders, and that we worked for the passage of the Civil Rights Act. How many of you remember the brouhaha when we came out both locally and nationally for reproductive rights? We also fought back against attempts to limit reproductive choice as well as access to birth control. And we stood tall when it came to the rights of our LGBTQ brethren as well. We supported marriage equality. We actually provided legal assistance to those members of our LGBTQIA communities who were targeted or unfairly targeted for legal persecution. We've been there all this time. And we've also been there for the ERA at the state and national level. And a lot of we held forums, we spoke out about the ERA, what it was, what it wasn't, and how it would affect all of us. We held fundraising campaigns, we held meetings to encourage people to join us on this fight. We hosted speeches from prominent women leaders all across the country. We also arranged marches, remember those, strikes, protests, and rallies. And we are going to continue to do that until it is enshrined on the state and national level. While we here in Minnesota are fortunate that our state has firmly planted its flag on these fundamental rights, and actually we kind of thought that the Supreme Court and the rest of the country had pretty much done so as well, but recent court decisions, actual and threatened legislative action, and the election results in November have made clear that our rights, all of this work we have done, are tenuous at best. And that is why the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment is so important. It is only with that amendment that we can guarantee rights for all Minnesotans, both now and in the future. By enshrining those protections in our state constitution, we can ensure that equal rights and protections will endure, no matter who is in office or what how the political landscape evolves. We have worked too hard and come too far to have these fundamental rights be subject to capricious political winds. So we, once again, are going to write, we're going to email, we're going to knock, we're going to lobby, we are going to talk, and we are going to get on that battlefield again for the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment. But what we are not going to do is give up this fight and go back and place our future in such tenuous hands. Are you with me? All right, it's time to get busy.
Good morning. My name is Kelsey Waits. I use she, her, they pronouns, and I am the president of AAUW Minnesota. So AAUW Minnesota is composed of 25 branches around our state, and we have over 1,600 members. Established in 1881, AAUW is one of the oldest women's rights groups in the United States. As an organization, we seek to advance equity for women and girls, recognizing that a lens of intersectionality and inclusivity is crucial in this mission. As Minnesotans, we value freedom and equality for every person. This includes the freedom for each child to receive a high-quality public education, the freedom to make your own reproductive choices, and the freedom to receive life-saving, gender-affirming care. Across the country, we are seeing attacks on reproductive freedom and transgender rights. In 2024, over 1,000 bills attacking reproductive freedom and trans rights were introduced in states around the country. Minnesota has stood as a North Star against these attacks, passing legislation to protect these freedoms and fundamental human rights. While these have been important steps to take, the best way to protect these freedoms is through a constitutional amendment that includes explicit protections for gender and reproductive freedom. It is imperative that the legislature acts now to ensure that all Minnesotans are equal under the law, no matter which political party is in power. It is past time that Minnesota adds its name to the growing list of states that have adopted equal rights amendments in their constitution. Discrimination is not a Minnesota value, and Minnesotans deserve the opportunity to cast their ballots in support of equal protections for all. As a queer woman and the parent of a trans child, I know how scary the political news is right now. But standing here in front of all of you, I feel inspired and hopeful. I remember that we are resilient fighters who will never give up in our fight for equality. For many of us, we think of change and progress linearly. We see us either making progress or going backward. A professor once challenged me to look at this a different way and to instead view change as circular. And so as we see progress, sometimes we feel like we might be going backwards, but we're not. What we're really doing is building momentum for our next jump forward. These next few years are going to be difficult, to say the least, and we're ready to stand here and fight. And we are ready to push for the values that we hold dear, and that we are going to make sure these rights are here for our children and our children's children. AAUW Minnesota is proud to support the ERA initiative, both at the federal level and at the state level. And we're looking forward to working with all of you. So let's get to it.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Tenzin Chesung. I am a second-generation Tibetan American. I am the strategic program manager at the Asian American Organizing Project. Our mission over the past decade has been to empower young Asian Minnesotans to create systemic changes towards an equitable, conscious, and just society. Many of our young Asian Minnesotans come from immigrant and refugee families whose parents immigrated or sought asylum here because they either helped the United States government, they were impacted by US wars, or they believed that the US was the land of the free. Yes, our elders wanted to ensure that their freedom and rights were protected, and their own children too. So this Equal Rights Amendment holds particular importance to our Asian communities, whether it be from protections against workplace discrimination due to their immigration status, ability to make appropriate and informed decisions regarding health care, access and ability to seek legal protections, combating anti-Asian hate and profiling, protections for victims of domestic abuse or discrimination in housing accessibility. There is no aspect of this amendment that would not result in a net benefit for our community. In our nation's continuous quest in forging a more perfect union, a union that cares and responds to the calls of all of its people, we believe that Minnesota can be a place of freedom and fairness where all are protected under the Constitution. Equal protection under the law remains fundamental to the advancement of our democracy. Yet too often do we see rollbacks on these fundamental rights, many that specifically impact and target marginalized communities. We see this most clearly in the widespread anger, distrust, and greed following the repealment of Roe v. Wade in 2022. But we also saw, through the recent successes of grassroots ballot measures to secure the enshrinement of abortion rights into state constitutions across the country, that reproductive rights remain an essential issue for millions. This issue is also an issue that has a high level of support among Asian Americans in Minnesota. A survey conducted by the Asian American Organizing Project found that over 80% of Asian Minnesotans in Minnesota support abortion access. Yes. This amendment allows Minnesota the opportunity to cement the fact that reproductive rights are human rights. Should the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment pass, it would send a strong message to those who seek to undermine and repeal our inherent and intrinsic rights, that Minnesotans will not submit with silent reluctance, but will remain proactive in the defense of rights not just for ourselves, but our family, our friends, neighbors, and for all those who call Minnesota their home. It is for these reasons I have mentioned that the Asian American Organizing Project is proud to once again stand in strong support of the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment. Our state constitution is one of the clearest reflections of our shared values as Minnesotans. Let us all work together to secure freedom, fairness, and equality into our Constitution. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to end by inviting the senators up to the stage. And just because I like to be a little bit loud, I'm going to ask you again, what do we want? We're proclaiming that we will not falter in the pursuit of freedom, justice, and equality in Minnesota. Your voices will resonate throughout the session. And as we conclude this rally, we invite you to accompany us all upstairs to stand in solidarity and be a visible presence to welcome back the legislators and let them know that equal rights is for everyone. Please join us upstairs.
Thank you so much. I couldn't be a prouder Minnesotan today. I love how many of you have come out here to show that we have shared values of equality in Minnesota. And I know the fight is going to be really hard and really long, but I invite all of you to bring the energy and bring this dedication to equality. Join us at the Women's March this Saturday and join us at the MLK March on Monday and show that we're not scared of someone in DC because Minnesota is strong and for equality. Thank you.